The setting of our thriller opening fits into the normal conventions of thriller films. For example, we kept our settings very well hidden, dark and gloomy. We got our inspiration from this by using The Dark Knight Rises when they have their underground meeting. Using settings like this really helps create the mood for the whole film. Using conventional settings for the film helps give the audience a clear idea of what the genre of the film is before it starts. We made the basement look exactly how we wanted it to by moving things around and taking things out. We had to clean the basement out because it wasn't suitable to stay down there for a long period of time. When cleaning it, we had to make sure that it still remained dirty so it fit into the convention. The next setting is outside in a large open space. This challenges the conventions of a typical thriller film because there are multiple options for the protagonist, whereas in other thriller films, the element of choice is stripped from the protagonist. We believe that using the garden as a setting would help make the scene feel more personal because it could happen to anyone. We got the idea of using a large open space from the film The Hunger Games. In The Hunger Games, the large open space is used to show freedom, but the fact that there is so much space means that it can be attacked from any direction. We use the large amount of space to create a false sense of safety and freedom. Then, once again, the conventions are portrayed within the next setting of our thriller film. As we step into the barn, you can instantly tell that it fits perfectly with the typical conventions of a thriller film due to how dirty and dark it is. This is used in most of the films to show how little hope there is for the protagonist. We use a lot of conventional camera shots during our thriller opening. Extreme close-ups are used throughout to show significance to specific objects or actions. This is done throughout the whole film. An example of this is in our film is when we use an extreme close-up of the key entering the lock on the boot. This shows great significance to the film because it's the car that takes the protagonist. Usually films close-ups are used to show emotions or reactions on people's faces, but we decided to use it in a different way. This challenges the conventions of a typical thriller films. We did this because we felt we could utilise it in a different way. In this film opening, we used conventional Dutch tilt to help show the setting was uneasy and keeps the audience on the edge. We used a shot that was famously used by Quentin Tarantino. This is called the trunk shot. We used this shot because it is conventional for the genre that we are working with. One of the most conventional shots that we used was the mixture of high and low angle shots. We used these because it's an easy way to show people's power in the film. For example, we used it right at the beginning of the film to show the audience early on that Jack and Ben are the ones in power. When working with the lighting, we tried to keep the lighting mainly on the characters and not so much in the background, so it keeps the audience's mind wandering throughout the whole opening. When both the antagonist and protagonist were in shot, we made the lighting on the protagonist lighter to connote that she is more pure and innocent. Whereas when using the lighting on the antagonist, we used less, so they were less defined and more mysterious. Our use of light fits really well into the typical conventions of a thriller film. I thought the lighting in thriller films isn't something that you should really mess with, because it helps create the atmosphere. To get the lighting right in the basement, we covered up the windows. This meant that we were able to place the lights exactly where we wanted, with no lateral light interfering. The lighting in the barn was similar to the lighting that we used in the basement, because we wanted to keep the atmosphere the same throughout the film. When looking at costume, we decided to keep Megan dressed in her casual clothes, so that it keeps the element that it could happen to anyone. That doesn't fit into the conventions of a thriller film, because it's usually the person being kidnapped is usually of importance and will be dressed in a specific outfit fitting of the film. We decided that when it came to getting Jack and Ben's costumes, we would keep it as conventional as possible. We did this by making them wear all black and balaclavas. This outfit is used in most films because it gives very little away about the characters. By using the balaclavas, the only way we could show the emotion was by looking at the eyes. This means throughout the film, the main focus for the antagonist is their eyes. We decided to put some makeup on Megan to indicate a struggle. We did this by adding fake blood to areas that would bleed a lot when fighting. This easily fits into the conventions of a thriller film, because in almost all thrillers there's usually some sort of blood at some point in the film. It's also a very logical thing to do, because no one would give a struggle without getting some injuries. We didn't use many props, but the ones that we did use were conventional. For example, we used a hissing bag to put over Megan's face. This is done in the film Taken when Liam Neeson is kidnapped and put in the car. The bag that we used wasn't in the scene for very long, but we felt like it added to the overall atmosphere of the film. The second prop was the one that we used the most. This was the chair. She was tied to it, which is very conventional and stereotypical for a kidnapping. We used a chair that was very dirty and uncared for, so it fit in with the basement, because we couldn't use a clean chair, otherwise it would stand out too much. The biggest prop that we used was the car. This is conventional and unconventional. This is because it is conventional due to there being a car used during a kidnapping, but it's unconventional to use a car that is so small and brightly coloured. This is because it would attract too much attention to itself. When it came to the body language of the antagonist, it was very conventional. The antagonists kept their arms crossed most of the time. This shows that they keep themselves to themselves and very defensive. This is conventional because when kidnapping someone, you wouldn't tell them everything about you. Megan's body language is conventional, but her facial expressions are not. Megan's body language is very forced due to the fact that her arms are tied behind her, so she is forcibly being open and vulnerable. But when it comes to her face expression, she challenges the conventions of a normal thriller film because she comes across as not caring and very arrogant. The two antagonists keep within the conventions of a thriller film by being very intimidating and strong. This is shown by the way that they speak to her and the way that she gets thrown about. Megan appears to be the conventional damsel in distress, but as the film goes on, you are shown that she challenges these conventions of a thriller film by being mentally strong and beginning to fight back.